Hey there, this is Mike from Mike Buys Houses. This week a homeowner was asking us a great question and he wanted to know, is there a holding period before selling my inherited property? And we thought that was a great question, so we just want to make a quick video for you at home in case that is something that you're wondering. So typically, there is no specific regulations or anything that are saying like you have to wait 21 days after you inherited a house in order to sell the property. There's not typically anything like that, but check on your local laws to see if that holds true. You definitely want to work with an attorney in your area who specializes in probate to help you get through this process and make sure you're doing everything correctly. The next thing that most homeowners ask us is, do I have to wait for the whole probate process to be through in order to sell the property? Because that's not really a waiting period, but that is going to delay you, right? So in order to sell the property before completely done the probate process, typically what's going to be required is what's called a letter of administration from the court, which basically just names you in charge of the estate, and typically they're going to also at that time verify the need to sell the property and then basically grant the right to sell the property. So with that letter of administration, it is possible to sell an inherited property before the probate process is completely done. Again, you're probably going to want to check with a local attorney in order to make sure that you're doing everything by the books and that that actually applies in your area. So if you're unable to get that letter of administration, then typically the probate process is going to go through all the way and it can take a little bit of time. So briefly, we'll just chat about a little bit about what the actual process looks like for that. So the first thing is, as the executor of the will, you're going to file a petition with the court to open the probate process. And at that point, the court is going to appoint an executor of the estate. If there was a will, then they'll typically name whoever was the executor of the will. And if there is not, then they're going to appoint an administrator as they see fit. It may be some parties who have some interest in the property. And if there's no one, then it could be a little bit more difficult at that point. But since you're watching this video, most likely you already have some idea of how you're going to gain access as the administrator of the property. So once this person has been named as the administrator of the estate or the executor of the estate, and the court has authorized the sale, then that's typically when contracts can begin and negotiations can begin in order to actually get the property sold. But again, without those letters of administration, it may take a little bit of time as the whole probate process may need to go through. After the executor has been named, then that executor is going to be responsible for what's called an inventory of the estate. So they're going to have to go through and find all the debts and make sure that anyone who has any claims against the estate is basically lined up to get paid. And that'll be the next step, which is to pay those taxes and debts as necessary. As the executor of the estate, this has to be done before any of the assets can be distributed, which will be the next step, which will be distribution of the assets to the beneficiaries. And at that point, typically everything will be wrapped up for you as the executor of the estate. Some things to consider if you're looking to sell an inherited property: make sure you know about any liens or encumbrances on the property that are going to need to be dealt with before transferring of the ownership. And also, is there anyone else who's also inheriting the property, or is it just you? It can definitely get more complicated the more parties that are involved. But typically, just in synopsis, there's no specific waiting period by law, but you will have to typically go through the court process, which can take some time. And during that time, you may be responsible for things like insurance, taxes, potentially paying the mortgage, depending on what's going on, as well as maintenance. And any monthly costs such as utilities and stuff like that. So if you're looking to sell an inherited house, then we definitely do buy inherited houses. So we would love to work with you if that's something you're interested in. And you can reach out at 267-984-4765 or visit us at MikeBuysHousesPA.com. We look forward to helping you.